What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over a gem guide in Diablo 4, going over all of the best gems for very specific builds. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I was reading on what are the top things that people are talking about right now in the Diablo community, and one of these was actually talking about how the gem effects aren't very fun. Some people in the thread were saying they were basically useless. You can see this person saying, depending on the build, you might not even put in a socket because it doesn't really matter. I'm here to show you guys that is completely wrong. The gems are going to be able to give you insane amounts of damage. Let me go and show you guys just how good some of these gems can be. We're talking insane amounts of damage. This video over here by Rob shows you can get 400k crits if you build your character right and meet these conditions. So some of the players may not notice that if you do play your character correct, you just saw 400k crits there. Let me go and pause it at the exact frame. Look at that, 400,000. There's multiple, like there's a 200k crit and there's some 300ks, but the most important thing is these gems absolutely matter. Now, obviously with the beta, we only had access to getting to level 25. This is a level 41 character. This picture was provided to me from Blizzard. They had like a press that we were allowed to play, but we couldn't record our own gameplay. This actually had some stuff in the game that isn't in the one that you guys most likely played recently. Now, in this screenshot that was provided for us to actually show off because we couldn't record our own gameplay, you can see that the gems over here aren't the same gems that we had in the beta, meaning that obviously the gems go way further beyond like level 20 as a requirement for the highest tier in gem for the beta. So there's going to be more tiers of gems. If you guys have played the previous Diablo games, Diablo 3 eventually it did have a lot more gems, but they cut it down to 10. And then also with Diablo Immortal, they also have 10. Okay, I'm going to use this kind of as a baseline for the gems. But to go ahead and explain kind of what the best gems are, it kind of depends on your build, but for the most part, the TLDR is more likely rubies are going to be the best for most builds. The emerald can be great as well for thorns damage, but sapphires are going to be the ones that more likely will be the best in slot for most DPS. Now I'm going to kind of look at other games here, kind of get a reference and go a little bit into the theory crafting, because some of the stuff I'm talking about is technically unknown, because obviously there's going to be more tiers in gems. There's not only 2 tiers. This is already confirmed because we have official like information from Blizzard.
I am so happy about this information.
There's other artwork for gems too, okay? So basically what it comes down to is the gems, we're going to be checking out the incremental increases. Now, some of them in previous Diablo games, they are kind of like, for example, on this Ruby in Diablo 2, it's literally 7 per level, right? So it kind of goes up the exact same. Now I'm going to be using those as our base for the numbers here. So if we look at the amethyst in a weapon over here, the amethyst goes from 4% damage over time to 5% damage over time, going from a crude to a chipped, right? Now, again, I'm going to be using 10 as the maximum. So I'm going to use the same numbers as the increment. So basically 1% on an increase on each one, going up to the tier 10 gem over here. These are what I'm going to be using for the numbers. But I know some people are just kind of like, dude, what's the best gem? Okay, I'm trying to give you guys the most in-depth explanation because there are several builds. So if you want the TLDR, the best gems in the armor are more than likely going to be the ruby, because it's 100% useful in every single build because it just gives you flat life. The emerald is going to be best for thorns in armor. The jewelry, the skulls are going to be the best. The way armor works in Diablo 4 compared to the previous Diablo games is armor actually doesn't only give you flat physical damage reduction, but it also gives you all damage reduction, which is absolutely amazing. And I'll show you guys kind of in a second here why. But on top of that, sapphire is going to be the best for DPS, more likely later on. And the reason why I say later on is because you don't have enough crit hit chance, because it gives you increased damage from crits based on if the enemy's crowd control that, which is basically everything. But like you're going to get more crit as you progress in the game. These are just kind of like my notes over here. So to go over the numerical changes, because again, I'm going to do some theory crafting in here, and I'm going to explain how powerful gems are going to be, and kind of explain why the people are saying that the gem effects don't matter, sockets don't matter, which is just far from the truth. Okay, so to go over these numerical changes, again, if we're using 10 as the max. So first off, I want to go ahead and go over some rules. So in terms of the weapon gems, we can have a total of 6 if you're playing Barbarian, you have 4 if you're playing Rogue, and you have 2 if you're playing Druid, Necro, or Sorceress. So the Barb can have 6 because you have 4 weapon slots. You have 2 two-handed weapons, each can hold 2. Let me maybe give you guys a better example of like a gameplay over here so you guys can see. Actually, this one will probably be better. So a two-handed weapon can hold 2 gem sockets, while the one-handed weapons or a offhand like the druid can have like, you know, your main hand and you can have your offhand. Or like if you're playing on the necromancer, you can have your main and your off. And with the sorceress, you have like a focus too. Basically, if you want to run a staff, there are two-handed weapons, but you can only still have two for certain characters. So certain characters benefit off of gems a lot more than others. So to go ahead and explain this, all of the character classes in terms of weapons will be different. However, for the armor, all classes will always have 5. That's 1 in the helmet, 2 in the body, and 2 in the legs. And then for jewelry, all classes will have 3, which is 2 rings and 1 amulet. Now, to go over how powerful this can actually be, if we look at the amethyst in the armor over here, I'm using all of these numerical values from the Maxwell website as the increments here. So first off, let's go over the armor in amethyst. So it gives us damage taken over time reduction. So if I was to get a level 10 or tier 10 version of the amethyst using the exact same numbers in terms of the increase from the tier 1 to tier 2, this is what we would get. It's actually pretty insane. We would get at level 10, it would be 21% per level 10, which effectively means if we have 5 armor gem sockets and we throw an amethyst, that would make it so we would have 105% damage over time reduction. Now, I'm not positive this is going to be half of the damage taken, if that makes any sense, because 100% reduced, meaning half, or does that actually mean you take 0? I don't know. I'm guessing it's not going to be 0. There could be diminishing returns on this if you play Diablo 3. You know, once you hit a certain threshold on, let's say, cooldown reduction, you get diminishing returns. Same thing with, let's say, attack speed in the game. But what it comes down to is this is very, very powerful. If you fought in the World Boss, Ashava, you know, once they hit you with the poison, you're almost dead regardless. Even if you spam potions, you're just going to get eliminated. So being able to have that insane amount of damage over time reduction could be massive, okay? Now, on top of that, let's see what the amethyst does for our weapon. We get increased damage over time. Now, depending on what class you're playing, again, at a tier 10, it'd be 13%. If you're playing Barb, now this is where Barb becomes a lot more powerful. I know a lot of people are talking about Barbarian's like the weakest class. Here, look at this. Actually, most people now that we've played the Druid will probably say Druid's the weakest. But for the sake of this, Barbarian has 6 sockets, okay? That's 78% increased damage over time if you throw in an amethyst in every single piece. That's massive. You're getting almost double the DPS just with gems. So the people that are saying like gems are worthless, I got all the stats here. So on top of that, the Thorns. This could be a very good one for any Thorns build. Necro and Barb can both play Thorns, 5 gems each at 199. Keep in mind, some of these numbers, they may round up to, let's say, 200. Okay, some of these, they're like, it'll be like 0.5, 0.3. I'm not sure if they're going to round up, round down, or just mitigate it completely and just don't count it. Either way, you're getting almost 1,000 thorns damage with a flat number, not even getting increased by, you know, your flat scaling of thorns. Now, on top of that, rubies are going to be good on every single build. You get 9.5 life per gem, which would equal up to 47.5. That's almost 50% extra HP. Again, going back to them talking about Reddit saying that, like, it doesn't even matter. No, getting almost 50% extra bonus life is massive in the game. On top of that, Topaz actually can go up to 43% increased damage, going over Topaz over here. Now, I know some older Diablo videos will show lucky hit chance. I'm not sure, you know, keep in mind, everything I'm talking about is subject to change, but being able to have your basic skills actually hit for 258% on a Barbarian, hey, that could actually be pretty good, especially with any of the things that incorporate bleed with Barbarian. That could be massive. For Rogue, you can get 4 sockets, so that's 172, but for other classes, yeah, it's only 86 because you can only have 2 sockets for those other classes in the weapon department for your basic skills. Now, Sapphire is basically going to be the meta. This is the one that I've already mentioned, like the TLDR, Sapphire is going to be the best. If you played Diablo 3, you know that, yeah, crit hit damage is a very important thing. So with Barbarian, the reason why Barbarian can hit so hard is you can have 117% increased critical strike damage to crowd control enemies. Getting crowd control enemies is super, super easy in Diablo 4 because there's so many abilities that just activate it. Heck, you can have some sort of thorns that does 1 damage that just inflicts bleed to an AoE, and on top of that, being able to just bleed the enemies, you can slow them down, and you don't even have to really have that crowd control like monitored via like, I have to activate this skill, then it crowd controls, then I activate this skill. A lot of the stuff can be automated in Diablo 4, which is quite nice. But yeah, getting this amount of damage, that's why everyone is using Sapphires. You'll see people that are uploading to YouTube getting insane numbers. If you're wondering, how are they doing that? It's with Sapphires. Just with this over here, 7.5 times 6, yeah, you get a massive amount, you get basically almost 50% increased crit strike damage to crowd control enemies. That's how you hit so hard, and that's why the gems are going to matter a lot. Even if we look at Sapphire and armor, if we go to like a max tier over here, remember we're using the same numbers in terms of its increments over here. Look at the damage while fortified. Just even in this, okay, that's only 5%, right? Even if we just looked at the beta numbers, level 25, this is one number over here that I didn't modify for like the level 10. This is 5% damage per. Just with those 5 of those, you get 25% damage reduction. That's massive. Now, it does have this condition while fortified. So obviously playing Barbarian, Druid, you can get fortification easy, but there might be some legendaries that you can get on other classes, but those are the primary classes that do use it. In addition to that, going over the resistances, you can get any one resistance. Like, let's say you know that you're fighting a world boss, right? You could get 110 resistance for one type if you ran multiple of those. We're talking 3 of those because these go in your jewelry. That means your rings and amulets. You can get 110% resistance for one type. So ashava would be poison. So you know how the poison damage basically one-shots. That would be huge for you. Now, more than likely, everyone's going to be running the skulls in every single slot because it's just better overall. But I just want to go ahead and give you guys that info over here. Keep in mind, this is not a level 10. The rest of the stuff I was mentioning was level 10. But a level 10 skull would give you 69 HP per kill. Some people were talking about skulls being very good in terms of in your weapon, but sapphires are probably going to be the primary for late game. Now, skulls are going to be super good in jewelry, and the reason why is even in Rob's video where he shows off his build over here, which let me go ahead and just go over it. So you can see he's using skulls. Now, why are they using skulls instead of diamonds? I know that was a very popular thing to run as well. And to explain it, in Diablo 4, you get damage reduction based off of your armor for everything, not just flat physical, which is normally what Diablo does, or how it used to work is based off of your armor or your dexterity. You'd have a chance to not be hit, your defense, if that makes any sense. If you play D2, that's basically what it is, or your enemies would have a chance to like miss you, basically, which is not the same as like dodge or evade, which Amazon gets, but that's getting a little bit complicated. Now, in terms of like the best gems, going over it, Ruby is going to be good because it's literally just like flat life in every single piece. Emerald's going to be the best if you're looking for thorns. As far as jewelry goes, skull's probably going to be the best, you know, unless they change how it works and they go back to how it used to work, which armor did not give you, let's say, all the elemental damage reduction. But sapphire will be the best for most of the DPS, as you know, you will get more and more crit as the game progresses. Now, I also want to touch upon, I did make a video that goes over crafting and how to upgrade your armor to actually have more sockets, and I'll link it down below, but it's basically just go and add a socket. Now, it does require you to kill a world boss to get the material. So the people that are saying that like the sockets aren't going to be like, you know, good, they hate how it works, it's literally one of like the forms of end game content. I mean, you have to kill the world boss to add a socket to an item, so they're going to make it worth it. Again, look at these numbers. Just off of the beta with the sapphires, you can get almost 50% extra damage to crowd controlled enemies if you're playing a Barb per, you know, the gem slot in your weapon. So it is going to matter, it is good, and this is kind of like a guide for it. Now, I also want to mention runes. Now, they might surprise us at, you know, the very launch of the game, and they will have runes. However, these right now, we can't socket them in weapons. Even in the version that I played in 2022, the runes, they just took them out. Now, they will probably add them more likely in DLC, as they are actually really cool as well. And if you guys want to kind of go down that rabbit hole of seeing what's to come in Diablo 4 in the future, check out that video. It's very, very informative. But anyways, that's going to go ahead and wrap up things for the video. Hopefully you guys learned something new here, and now you kind of understand these gems are actually going to be a lot better, because when I first saw them, I had the same like idea of like, well, like looking at like how these gems work, right? Which is kind of what a lot of people have been saying, is that like, oh, I have to hit an enemy and it's only on these certain conditions, like on like overpower. Overpower is a thing we'll talk about maybe in the future, because there's not really any good way to scale it at the moment, where it's like you can do more damage to crowd control enemies. That's actually really easy to meet in terms of the conditions. But again, a lot of the bonus damages on stats in Diablo are all revolved around maybe an enemy being vulnerable or these conditions met, and that's where the complexity lies with this game in terms of itemization at the moment. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video and you're new here and you want to see more content, hit subscribe, turn that bell, and you'll see more very soon, or check the pinned comment for more Diablo content. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.